Welcome to Real Estate Investing Unscripted, a podcast from Fund That Flip, where we explore some of the most creative, innovative, and inspiring stories from the real estate investor community. With expert tips and success stories you won't hear anywhere else, you'll come away with inspiration on how to improvise in the unscripted world that is real estate investing, so that you can dominate your next real estate deal. Now your host, founder and CEO of Fund That Flip, Matt Rodak.
Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Real Estate Investing Unscripted. I'm your host, Matt Rodak, founder and CEO of Fund That Flip. And today we have a client and good friend of the firm joining the show, Mark Inks. Mark is principal of Mulberry, which is an integrated construction and development firm. Mark and his firm operate out of the Columbus, Ohio market. Go Buckeyes. Mark has completed thousands of projects through kind of the Mulberry brand, and individually before starting the firm, was party to thousands of deals through working with public companies and a number of other big shops. So with that, welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. So I gave a little bit of background, but I think, it'd be useful hearing it from you. How long you've been in the space? How'd you get into it? Kind of how did Mulberry, come to be? And then, a little bit about what you guys are into today.
Sure. As far as the space goes, I've kind of been in it my whole life. Took a job with a large public company right out of college, and thought it would be a summer job, and quite frankly, never left. Got recruited by a couple of the other public companies, and hopped around a little bit, not too much, but was able to climb the ladder and kind of learn a lot of different pieces about the business. And until the downturn of 2008, which, I took that as an opportunity. I was in a position to do a little bit of buying at the time, and was able to buy things, obviously, at a much lower rate, and did fairly well during the downturn. And shortly after the downturn ended, that is when I was introduced to a urban developer who kind of needed the construction expertise, and I had joined forces with him and did many projects as Mulberry. And several years back, went ahead and bought him out of the company, and here we are today. So ultimately, I have kind of done it all, and I've surrounded myself with a lot of people who've done a lot of things, all real estate and construction biased, and ultimately we, you're only as good as your team. So I've tried to focus on getting the best people, at least in this market, to help us reach the goals that we set for ourselves.
Sure. Can definitely attest to that, how important good people are. So I've been down to your office in Columbus. It's awesome. You guys got a lot of stuff going on there. So, we talked a little bit about being integrated. You guys are doing land development. You're doing construction for others. You've got your own plumbing company. Like how broad do you guys kind of, all the different parts you touch? Maybe just talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we, the business has kind of forced us in different directions over the years, just through our growth. And, quite frankly, the difficulty in finding people to service our customers the way that we expect they be serviced. So there was times to where we maybe weren't happy with the property management that was available in the Columbus, Ohio market, or at least the people that we had worked with. So when we developed our own apartments, we said, well, we're going to just do this ourselves so that we can give a higher level of service. And same thing with plumbing. I mean, plumbing is I guess a tradesman poor trade in Columbus. Just not a lot of people getting into it for whatever reason. We struggled finding, large and small plumbers, depending on the size of job. So we had an opportunity with a plumber who didn't want to own his own business anymore, and wasn't needed some business help. And he approached us, and we joined forces, and we now have our own plumbing company, of which we fortunately are busy enough to just kind of service our own jobs. Mm-hmm. However, as of late, we've been, requested by quite a few people. So that little company itself is growing like crazy.
It's great.
So, everything that we set up was set up originally to service ourselves and our volume. And, our volume just continues to grow every day.
Yep. It's great. So I think it's safe to say you've been around the block a time or two and have probably seen the ups and downs of the real estate market, and certainly are involved in a lot of different, pieces, parts, from property management to construction, new development. I don't normally do this on podcasts, but I think it's important this time. It's April 1st today, right? And we're in the midst of the Corona crisis, COVID-19 crisis. The question on everybody's mind is what is going on, and particularly at the front lines, like you guys. I know we've got a dozen or so projects going with you right now, and I'm sure you've got more with others. How's it going? Like, are you guys still progressing projects? Slowdowns, delays? Like, just give us the report on the front lines, at least in Columbus, in terms of how things are moving.
Well, I know Columbus is different than many other areas. Especially areas that you guys participate in, but we are considered essential here. We are following all of the governor's requests and even going above and beyond with some of our cleaning practices and ordering people to stay home if they've been in contact with anyone whatsoever who's sick, coronavirus or not. The good news is we're pretty heavily invested in technology, and we've got some amazing software programs that we use to run our business. So most of our staff, if need be, could work from home, and some of them have. As far as out in the field, it's business as usual. Quite frankly, up until today, I haven't had really anyone. And all the other companies are sending people home when sick and all that. I'm hearing of that. But we deal with a lot of larger companies too. So, just based on our volume, which might be a little different than what, some other people who don't do the amount of units that we do, maybe working with smaller contractors that are, very small crews. I don't think we're feeling the pain as much as some of those guys are. Some of our companies, if they have 10 people stay home, it really doesn't cause a glitch in their production. So our job sites are packed every day and have been since this whole thing started. I haven't seen really a slowdown at all. We have, put out, a letter that we are expected to work, and we are going to continue to do so. And that's, we're kind of running the field business as usual. We're just being more cautious and practicing better hygiene. And not that we didn't in the first place, but
a lot of hand washing. Washing.
Yeah, absolutely. Limiting large meetings. Making sure the guys in the field. Even our plumbing company, we've broken into smaller crews, and we say one person works upstairs, the other person works downstairs. I don't even want them close to each other all day.
Yep.
So I think we've implemented some practices that should help us avoid this, but I don't think anyone knows the foolproof way to avoid this virus, but we're doing everything we've been asked to do and then some.
Yep. I think it's important for all of us to do that. So that was one of my next questions. So, it sounds like you are modifying a little bit about how your crews work, separating them out. You guys are doing anything differently in terms of whereas before maybe you would have the, electricians and the framers there at the same time saying hey, let the framers finish before the electricians come in, or
sure.
More like, are you staggering things any differently, or like you said, kind of more business as usual, just distance each other when you're in the house?
Yeah, just more distancing from each other when you're in the house. However, a lot of our projects are large enough. I mean, we have several multi-story projects too. Mm-hmm. We don't just have single family. So a lot of those projects, you might have 5 or 6 vendors on that job site that day, but it's a 260 foot wide by 80 foot deep by 4-story building. So,
right.
You can have plenty of people in that building performing their duties and being more than 10 foot away from each other, more than 20 foot away from each other for that matter. So,
yep.
In our single family stuff, We run a pretty tight ship, single family wise, and I don't necessarily believe in throwing people on top of each other anyway. I mean, we really didn't do that before. I do like to let the sub trades finish before we go on to the next phase, just because that, a person isn't as efficient when they are trying to, work around a framer or have the HVAC guy work around the electrician, and they're stepping all over each other's stuff and pipes in the way. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not wise to do anyway. So we've never really had that, Matt, to be honest with you. We've always given people their days. Got
it. So maybe others that will, have to go to that route will have some better practices on the other side of this, which you guys are already on top of. Cool. So the other questions that I'm getting a lot is, it's not just your crews that have to be in there, right? It's city inspectors. It's, for us, we do construction draws and inspections come out. I'm sure banks or other lenders that you work with require the same thing. Are you seeing any different there? And how are the kind of city governments, and city inspectors primarily kind of dealing with this to make sure that you guys can keep your projects on track? Well, first of all, we have wonderful relationships with we participate mostly in the city of Columbus here, not too many suburbs, but we have wonderful relationships with our city of Columbus inspectors. And I personally talk to many of them all the time. A few weeks back, they were ordered to take their cars home and work from home. And they pick up their inspections on their phone. So the city has technically shut down any entry to the building, but still performing inspections as usual. If we call in a structural inspection today, we have it tomorrow. So when you say on their phone, obviously, Sorry to cut you off. Does that mean you're walking around the property with your phone, videotaping kind of what's going on, and they're looking at it at home? No. They come in. They come in and do an inspection. They pick up their inspections off of their phone or their computer. They don't have to go into the office anymore. Got it. And they're able to do everything and log the inspection and everything directly from their phone. So, which they were always able to do. This isn't something new, but they used to go into the office and now they don't. They just go straight to the job site in the morning because they used to take their city cars back. So it is. It's really no difference. I mean, a lot of times our project managers will meet the inspector on site and walk the project with them. I mean, of course, we're all going to come in contact with each other to some extent. They stay 6 or 8 or 10 foot away from each other. And I've heard of some of the inspectors having masks, wearing a mask. Not all, but some. So, everybody's protecting themselves at the individual level the best that they can. But, you're going to see someone, even if it's your family at home. We can't completely stay away from each other. Yeah. But the social distancing it's not that hard to have a conversation 8 foot away. And that's, it's kind of what we practice, and they have too. I mean, what they're not doing, what the city of Columbus is not doing, and I don't believe they're going to come off of this policy until, we're on the decline. They are not doing inspections of occupied units. Doesn't affect my business at all. We don't have any. But for instance, if you were doing maybe a remodel job for a customer, the city's not coming into that house. So that has stopped. But that's not what we do. Whether it's a flip, a new build single family, a new build apartment building, we don't have customers in there anyway. Yeah. It sounds like, I'm curious your opinion on this. It sounds like in a lot of ways, not a whole lot has changed for you guys right now, which is good. Except for maybe the inspectors aren't going into the office. Do you see any kind of like changes that are made because of this that turn out to be like a good thing? That whether it's at the city level or elsewhere, get adopted long term that, ends up being a positive on all of this? I don't know that I see anything long term. I know that hopefully as a nation, we practice better hygiene. I mean, myself, I've always kind of been a little bit of a germ freak. So, this isn't odd to me to wash my hands 20 times a day and use hand sanitizer anytime I see it. Yeah. But,
I've always been one of those guys that, out of respect, I shake a person's hand, but I always think, should I shake their hand? It's probably not the cleanest thing to do, period. So, short of that, I don't, I certainly don't want to make light of what's going on. This is a very, very serious issue, but we have felt no pain, knock on wood, and we hope that it stays that way.
Yeah.
I really haven't, even what the inspectors have done hasn't changed anything for us. We still call in our inspection and they show up the next day. So day to days, we have yet to be affected. Hopefully it can stay that way.
Yeah, maybe we'll start bowing in the future, like our friends in Japan, and get away from the handshake.
Exactly. So I don't feel, other than the stay-at-home order at night. It's I think we're all going a little stir crazy sitting in our houses all night, and on the weekends. But you have to find other things to do. You have to go and walk.
We got to get back before football season starts. I keep saying people will lose their mind if particularly when you're part the Buckeyes aren't playing in the fall, man. We're gonna have real problems.
I know.
So let's shift gears a little bit, if you don't mind, Mark. It sounds like things are progressing, great down there from a construction perspective, and hopefully that keeps up for your sake and all your workers' sake. What about, and I don't know if this has happened to you yet, just depending on kind of what your pipeline looks like, but did you guys have anything kind of, ready to be listed and sold, or do you expect to have anything be ready or listed or sold in the next couple of weeks? And what are you planning for, just in terms of how do you show the house? Are people actually out going to look at houses right now? Talk to us a little bit on your near-term expectations on, moving product.
Sure. Well, some good news. Mulberry had 3 sales and 3 closings in the last 30 days.
Great.
Yeah. So, people, at least for us, I've heard some stories, but for us, people that were committed, and I think a lot of that has to do with our customer base. Our customer base isn't as affected financially yet, I think. I think that we do a little higher end product. So, a lot of the folks that are buying our product, they are some of the same folks I ran into in the last downturn. Those who had money were still buying. So that's kind of our customer. It is our customer. I'm also working with 2 new build clients right now who have shown no indication of backing out. Matter of fact, quite the contrary. They're more worried about me backing out because of the coronavirus. So, and we have another closing coming up on the 7th, which, we went and signed today. And I believe they're going on the 7th to sign. So we're not doing too many face-to-face closings anymore, but I'm not sure that it matters. The transfer is happening. Title companies are considered essential business. So that was, one of my early concerns is, the title companies are going to shut down and we're not going to be able to have closings. Well, that's pretty clear that that's not going to be the case, at least here. They're considered insurance companies. So
what about longer term? Are you, as you're thinking, you're penciling deals out and you're saying, hey, I think I'm going to sell this product for $470, $520, right? Whatever your outsell is. Do you think there's going to be any kind of downward pressure? Again, a lot of what ifs out there, right? On how long does this last and how many people end up unemployed? But have you started to kind of, maybe model some things out with more downside than maybe you were going into this?
I would say yes and no. I'll explain. As of right now, the only deterrent to doing deals, and we're seeing a lot of them. We're seeing even more now because I think some people are really afraid of this. Maybe some people that maybe don't have the staying power that can't, maybe can't last a 90-day downturn or even 120-day downturn, that are wanting to get rid of their properties right now. And if money were no object, I would buy all of them. That's just me. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. But I have been through a downturn that was very specific to our industry. very specific. And I personally probably made more money in that 3-year downturn than I do now. Every economy has a winner, no matter what. And it is about, being regimented and sticking to your routine, blocking and tackling correctly, and carefully vetting every deal. So that is something that we do. We are still buying deals as of now. I have yet to walk away from a deal that I was interested in. I walk away from deals every day, but that's not because of the coronavirus. It's because they don't work. To answer your question, if lending was no limitation, I would probably ramp up my buying right now.
Yeah, interesting. So you're bullish long term. Bullish. You think we come out of this and we come out of it pretty quickly, and people are back in market buying houses?
Well, let's face it. I think we all know we're going to come out of this. It's when. I mean, this isn't going to last forever. That's a fact. I do think that at least in the Columbus, Ohio market, we have a very, very robust economy here. Columbus didn't get pinched the way a lot of other markets did, even back in the real estate recession. I mean, it was a tough time, but it was nothing compared to Florida or Phoenix or, places like that. I think that the second the governor says it's time to go back to work, we're opening our restaurants, we're opening our bars, we're opening our bowling alleys, I think that you're going to see a rapid drop in unemployment just as quick as this ramp up. Assuming, once again, these are just my opinions, assuming this thing doesn't go on for 6 or 8 or 10 months. And I think we all know that the coronavirus is here to stay, but what we need is good news and declines in new cases, declines in deaths. We have a treatment, even though I don't think we're going to have a vaccine in 2020, but we've got a treatment for people who really get sick. This is working. We have enough ventilators, we have enough masks, we have enough, PPEs for everybody. I think that we're going to see rebounds, some pretty exponential rebounds.
Yep.
The other thing to keep in mind is, depending on how long this lasts, once again, my opinion, many people are still being paid, even while being laid off, very close to what they currently make. So, as things open back up, if this doesn't drag out too long, it should have been, it really shouldn't have really hurt people that much financially.
Yep.
Unless this lasts an extended amount of time.
Yep. I just finished a podcast with an economist, and her and I were having a good conversation on, the V-shape versus the U-shape, right?
Absolutely.
A lot of the people are calling for a V-shape, and her included, and I think that's what we're all hoping for. And it sounds like, someone who's kind of on the ground level, looking at the data and feeling it, right? You're also kind of in that V-shaped camp, which is good. It's encouraging. We should all feel encouraged about that.
Yeah, no, I certainly am. And, a lot of it depends on, where you're at too. I mean, we're currently booked with work we have to complete for, not booked, but we're taking on new business every day, but we have enough work to keep every employee and our doors open for, unless something extremely catastrophic happens. But we're currently busy for the next year and a half without adding another single job.
Yep.
So we're in a little different scenario maybe than some other people, which is good. But I just, my theory is pretty positive at this point, that this can't last that long. It just can't. I don't believe it can. We've got some brilliant people in this country, and some amazing scientists and doctors, and we're going to figure this out. And I'm sure that some of it is probably already figured out, just has to go through the testing, phases. So, I don't believe that this is, this kind of pain and fear and panic is here to stay.
Yep. And as someone who lived through the 2008, crisis, you mentioned, you did well during those times. Maybe just give us a quick kind of compare and contrast around, maybe what some of the similarities may be, what, some of the differences are going to be, particularly, as it relates to, opportunities in the real estate world.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I'll try and keep it short and sweet. I think that back then, most of our problems were real estate based and loss of wealth because so many people had any wealth or equity that they accumulated in their home. Obviously there was a trickle down effect there that many people lost their jobs, especially in Columbus, Ohio, because there's a lot of construction in this town. Mm-hmm. I was working for a builder at the time who closed 3,200 homes a year. So big builder. So obviously when you go from 3,200 homes a year to 300 homes a year, there's a lot of layoffs, a tremendous amount. So, and then all of the people that support that industry, all the way down to, Chevy and Ford making trucks for a lot of construction workers. I mean, it hurt everything that touched real estate. Then you started having the buying frenzy because people got desperate. So they started letting their houses go very low. Mixed with your competition was no longer the other builder. It was a foreclosure. It was only a year old. So it was certainly more difficult to make money and almost impossible to make money unless you had money. Because you could buy stuff at 10 cents on the dollar, but you could only sell it at 50 cents on the dollar, right? Mm-hmm. So those who had cash made a lot of money in those days. Those who were leveraged and or were not buying correctly lost a lot of money. It was, I think what's different about this is everybody's affected. Everybody in the world is affected by this. However, we're sheltering people. And, Americans especially are very gluttonous. I mean, we like to buy things. We like nice things. We like cool things. We like to do stuff. We like to travel. All of those things, all of those desires are not going away. I heard from a real estate friend the other day that showings are down, but clicks on their posted houses on their websites are up 10 times.
Wow.
Normal.
Wow.
So yeah, people aren't going out and looking at that house, but they're laying in bed shopping for houses.
Yeah.
On their iPhone. So I don't think that the desire has gone away. I think people will always love a new home. People will always love a cool home. People are always going to move. Columbus has become a pretty transient city. And I think that what we're building is pent up demand. I really believe that at all levels. I believe that most of these people are going to go back to work as soon as the governor says so. I don't think there's going to be this big lingering unemployment cloud out there. I think that they're going to go back to work. Their companies are going to say, hey, we're open for business. You're not even going to be able to get a reservation at a restaurant. Yeah. Those are all my thoughts. But I also do realize that if this goes on 6, 8, 10 months at this level, probably not going to happen. But yeah. You know what? If a restaurant closes down because they can't make their payments, then somebody else is going to lease that space and there'll be a new restaurant there. I mean, that's just the cycle. Yep. So everything's very cyclical. And I think that, what goes down must come back up. And I think that there is a lot of people still doing good in this economy, even working from home. I've got buyers that were buying $900,000 condos for me that never left their house. They worked from home. They worked from home anyway. That was their job. Right. So those people are still out there and they're still working. So yeah, it's a big number. I'm with you. And I think, that's what we're all hoping for. And I think we've got some, as you said, doctors and scientists working on, if not a vaccine, some ways to blunt the effect, which gets people back and it less threatening. I think we've also got some good policymakers, taking what seem to be the right actions to, make sure that things continue to hum as well as they can. So I'm hopeful and optimistic. It sounds like you are too, which is great. Yeah. Great to hear. Well, it was really good, Mark. That's what you have to be.
You got to be right. You got to find the positives in here because they're out there if you look hard enough. So, well, listen, I really appreciate your time, Mark. I know you're a busy man, so thanks a lot for stopping by. I think kind of my takeaways here. I like to give some takeaways. Is I'm happy that this is the case for you. Job sites are humming, people are working. City governments are figuring out how to keep projects on track, which is great. You think we're bouncing back quick, in a big piece of that is, the desire is not going away, and that desire is eventually going to turn into demand, and that demand eventually turns into home purchases. Right. So, all back soon.
Yep. Well, we hope. I mean, that's what we're planning on. And I think, you can sit still in a time like this, but if things pan out the way that we said, that wouldn't be sitting still. That'd be going backwards. So we are cautiously bullish. If there is such a thing, that's what we are right now.
Changing on a day-by-day basis and keeping an eye on things and adjust and adapt as appropriate, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, this was great. Thank you again, Mark. Really appreciate the time, and thank you, everyone out there that's listening. For more other and great resources about what's kind of going on in the market right now, be sure to check out our blog at fundthatflip.com. Otherwise, stay safe out there, and look forward to chatting again with you all soon. Your host, Matt Rodak, signing off.